Hi, and welcome to Talking It Out. I'm Jonathan Geffner, your host. We have a special guest today who is Carole Shaw, and she tours the world with a popular one-woman show in which she plays and portrays the Queen of England, as I understand it, as I've seen from some excerpts. We'll take a look at some of that and talk with Carole Shaw about her adventures and journeys with her special one-woman show. And she interacts with her audience in a very engaging manner, I have seen from the clips. Welcome, Carole.
Pleased to meet you. You haven't mentioned that I'm actually beaming in from London.
Yes, well, it's the magic of the internet and Zoom and all that stuff that we could actually do this. So tell me, what was the inspiration for this show that you're touring the world with?
People think I do the Queen because I'm a royalist, which isn't the case. I grew up in a very left-wing family, where the aristocracy, they weren't flavor of the month. But she represents certain qualities, and I think that they're qualities that endure, and that they're qualities that we could do well to emulate. So many people, when they see it to begin with, don't realize this. At the end, if there's time, because sometimes there isn't time, depends if there's another show quickly at the end, we get to look at what the philosophy is behind the show. But it's that she represents certain qualities. Yeah,
but it is indeed the Queen Elizabeth, right? That you're
the Queen Elizabeth.
Okay.
Yeah.
You just got back, I think, from a tour of Australia and New Zealand. Yes.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago.
Where else have you performed? What other countries?
Well, apart from the UK, I did something online in the US, because it was during COVID time, so there's no way I could get in. Otherwise, I would have gone. It was in Boulder, Colorado. So there's there, and in Germany, South Africa online as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
This is
and that's it, really.
During COVID, because of the pandemic, or even was that before?
No, that was during the pandemic.
Oh, I see. So the physical countries you've visited, though, aside from the UK, are Australia and New Zealand.
That's right. Yeah.
Right. And
Germany.
Oh, Germany
I did Yiddish. I did this part of the show in Yiddish for a Yiddish conference in
Yiddish
Germany.
conference in Germany.
Yeah, in Nuremberg.
So you do speak some Yiddish, because I've exchanged a few words in Yiddish here and there with you as well.
Yes.
And Hebrew too, or mainly Yiddish?
Less so Hebrew. I obviously can read it, although it's more difficult if there's no vowels. At least in Yiddish you get the vowels.
Right. Do you do any shows specifically for Jewish audiences? That
yes.
How does the material change in what ways when you're doing it for a specifically Jewish audience rather than a general audience?
Well, it's called Keep Calm and Kvetch already.
Oh, you have a separate title for it.
That's right. And the Queen confesses right at the beginning that although she's defender of the faith in the UK, which means she's the head of the Church of England, which I suppose is the same as the Church of America. Yeah.
Right. Isn't that the Anglican Church?
That's right. It's an Anglican church. It's called the Church of England. Yeah.
Right.
Not Roman Catholic, obviously, it's Protestant.
Yeah.
But she confesses to this particular audience that the ganze Mishpocha, the whole British royal family, are secretly Yiddish-speaking Jews.
Wow, that is a big flash news item there.
Yeah, that's right. And all that happens, and what the names of the main people are, like Fievel, that's Prince Philip, and they've all got Hebrew names, and I crack a few Jewish jokes, some of which I've cracked with you, and it goes on about the family and how how when she met Prince Philip, he was a fiddle player in a klezmer band, and how she fell in love with him with these wonderful blue eyes, and she runs home to her mamala and sings "Oi mamel bini falit, Oi mamel bini falit,"
And so that's the Jewish version of your one-woman show. Right. A Jewish royalty, English royalty. So performing for your, I assume, usual audiences are not Jewish specifically, right? So that's general audiences.
That's right.
You find that do you ever throw in a little Jewish reference or joke just for fun, or do you just avoid that when you're doing a general audience?
With the general audience, I generally don't throw in anything particularly Jewish. I'm trying to think. Not usually, no.
have you noticed any difference in the audience reactions to your show in the different places where you've performed? Australia, New Zealand, England, as well as you mentioned Germany. Are there kind of different kinds of audience reactions, or is it just you never can tell?
No, you never can. You can't really tell. Actually, in Australia, they were quite. Some of them were quite patriotic, and there's a bit at the beginning. You wouldn't have seen it because it was the bit since she died. It was the TV announcement of her death, which comes quite early on in the new show because it's obviously changed since she died. There's a clip with the national anthem, and some of these audience members, they all stood up. Well,
Became very patriotic.
yeah, they were very patriotic, and they came to the show because they loved the Queen. So I think in some of the colonies, you get people who are quite into the Queen, possibly even more than we are.
When did you start doing this one-woman show?
Well, the Queen first made an appearance when David and I got married in 1992, when he didn't want to do a speech, and I'd already worked out that I was going to do one. But what he didn't know was that it was a comedy, and that I introduced two characters who were invited guests to the wedding. And one was Margaret Thatcher, because she's not long left office, so it was still current, and the Queen. And that's when the Queen first made an appearance, and they were both invited guests to this wedding of the century, which was mine.
Oh, and when was that?
1992.
Oh, I see.
31 years.
So you've been doing it for a while now.
Well, there was a gap when I didn't do any of that. I mean, it went down very well, but I used to tell jokes at work and at Christmas do's. They got me to do the comedy. And then it was actually 10 years later, exactly, when I was thinking of doing something for our 10th wedding anniversary. And it happened to coincide with, I changed jobs, and they had a Christmas do, and I said I'd do a comedy act. And it was based on the Queen. And it was actually at that juncture, we're going back to 2001. So that's 22 years ago, or nearly. It was because of what happened there that I realized I could do it professionally.
Oh, and what is the title that you usually give this show?
Right. It was called Amazing Adventures of Her Majesty at 80. It started out because the first show I took to the Edinburgh Fringe was in 2006 when she was 80.
Oh.
And then I had a bit of a gap because I wasn't well for a number of years. And then I changed the title because she wasn't 80 anymore to Amazing Adventures of Her Majesty at 90 plus.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, which is actually, I don't know if you can see it, it's actually that poster there. And most probably you can't see it from here. I hope you appreciate the two flags, by the way, as a...
Yes, we here in America appreciate that, I'm sure.
Yeah. That does come into the American show. We get the American flag up. So it became Amazing Adventures of Her Majesty at 90 plus. And then when she died, which obviously would last me for 10 years, I changed it to The Queen, Shakespeare and Me. It started out as Amazing Adventures. Well, firstly, she didn't have an adventurous life. It was a life of duty.
Right,
so it's not that she had any adventures. So it's a bit of a joke. But also it's because it began with an A. In those days, you had a printed program, and so people would look at the beginning of the program. You didn't want to be Z. You wanted to be A, and that's how come I stuck with that title.
Oh, okay.
Well, begin with an A or a B or something near
good
the
tactic. So, Carole, let's take a look at some video clips from your one-woman show.
I'm going to look the other way, actually, Jonathan. I can't take it.
Okay, you can avert your eyes, but our audience, I'm sure, would like to take a look about what we are talking about now. So here is Carole Shaw.
So I then ran home to tell Prince Philip the good news. And there he was, as usual, behind his newspaper. I said, Philip, you'll never guess what the doctor said to me. He said I have the body of a 60-year-old. So without glancing up, he muttered, and what did he say about your 90-year-old bum? I said, well, he didn't say anything about you, dear. It was the long arm of the law. And they pulled me over and said, would you mind stepping off that vehicle, madam? I said, listen here, my good man. I'm the Queen, these are my highways, and I'm immune from prosecution. Natalie, I think we've got a nutter here. Says she thinks she's the Queen. Don't you recognise me from all the stamps and the banknotes? What's the point of having my face everywhere if you don't recognise me? So they charged me with insulting a police officer. You look a charming young man. Would you like to come back with me to the palace for tea? So they charged me with soliciting. And then I said, you very nice young people, if you treat me kindly, you could become a knight and you could become a dame. So they then charged me with attempting to bribe a police officer. And then I don't know how it happened, but my handbag swung out and the clasp there hit the officer on the lip and it started spurting blood. And the big man, he started crying. And then the corgis got into the act and they started snapping at his heels. So he's running up and down on the spot to avoid them and crying. So they then charged me with wounding with intent, causing grievous and actual bodily harm, being in possession of dangerous dogs without a muzzle. They said I was looking at a long stretch. I said, I'll give you a long stretch in the tower. So they then charged me with threatening a police officer. I said, I'll report you to the firm. Now, that's my name for the royal family. But they charged me with being a member of an organised crime group.
So that was Carole Shaw in her very popular one-woman show.
I'll have to correct you there. I don't know that it's very popular. I enjoy doing it. I think the people that come and see it enjoy it, but it's not huge audiences.
Oh, well,
you know, I haven't hit the, what would you say?
Haven't hit the big time yet with it?
But Madison Square Gardens, not yet. No.
Not even Radio City Music Hall.
No, I've seen.
All right, I take it back. That was Carole Shaw in her not so popular one-woman show. Hopefully, it gave me the impression of being popular because you had strong audience reactions there. You'd like to involve your audiences. Do you do some ad-libbing in the show, or is it all scripted?
Most of it's scripted, and I know the script backwards, which is, obviously it's changed, since I first did it, but not a hell of a lot. So most of it's scripted is the answer. But yes, there would be ad libs. It depends where I am. And of course, on that score, I adapt it to whatever audience I'm at. For example, I have a New Zealand flag. I've got some New Zealand, a toy penguin, a kiwi, that sort of thing. They come into it. And there are references to their politicians as opposed to ours.
Right. So you localize it, personalize the show. How has the show changed since the Queen died? You did mention that you changed the title to, what was it, Shakespeare? Something.
The Queen, Shakespeare, and Me.
Oh, okay. So how exactly has it changed because of her death?
Not really a hell of a lot. It's just that it's more. It obviously acknowledges that she's no longer here, right near the beginning. We have the actual, you can hear the television announcement that everyone would have heard when she died, followed by the national anthem. Possibly a little bit more circumspect, but not very much. A lot of the same thing happens. Same things happen. Very, well, I think they're funny, zany things that happen to her because they're incongruous. Like she still gets arrested,
Does she acknowledge in some absurdist way that she's dead during the show, or you just ignore that part?
It comes up, yes. Yes, it does. Because if you like, it's like a retrospective, like anyone would do. You could have a show on William Shakespeare or Disraeli there, But yes, she says things like, there's one line where she said, I could go on for years yet, Charles. Well, he's already in that position. So then I say something like, and he's now here. He's now in that position.
I see. So you imply
73 or what? So it comes out like that. I mean, he had to wait until he was 73, was it, that he actually became king? Yeah.
So you kind of you touch on it.
Yeah, that's right. 74, was it? Yeah.
What other background do you have aside from acting, or have you done other types of acting before the one-woman show?
I did amateur things. They weren't professional, were they? Did I ever get paid for it? I did a fair number of amateur things, You see, when I was a kid, you know, you have dreams. For instance, you're going to be a ballet,
Yes.
you know,
Uh,
that, you know, you realize after a while you're not quite, it doesn't mean you couldn't do other forms of dancing, but not a ballet dancer like New York City Ballet.
And your dream was to be, did you say a ballet dancer?
To begin with, as a child, I had
That's
various
right.
dreams, you
Mhm.
know, and funnily enough, in a way, all of them came true, but not quite in that guise. That's what I often say to people. You keep hold of your dreams. You might not achieve that particular dream, but you might achieve something that's very close to it. You
Mm,
know, like I'm not, you know, my body shape, I was a lot slimmer then anyway, but I'm not tall enough, or I didn't have
mm.
the skills to be a proper ballet dancer, you know, like Margot
Uh-huh.
Fontaine, or,
Right.
you know, Patricia Wan, was she the American one, you know, or well, Martha Graham wasn't ballet, but
Oh,
um, but I did end up doing dance in other ways. And
what
so
kind
one
of
of the
dancing?
things I did, it was like contemporary dance,
Oh,
and,
okay.
you know, things like Martha Graham. And I
Hmm.
didn't obviously dance that professionally, but what I did become was a dance therapist.
Oh,
And
interesting.
so I
Oh,
spent, and that's very influenced by America, because it was much more developed in America than at home.
mm,
And I did that for a fair number of years, because I could see that dance was very important. It lifts people's mood, you know, like comedy does. It has an
right.
immediate effect on people's psyche, you know, so that it's quite powerful. And
Did you
one of the
work with children mostly or adults?
mostly adults and people with mental and physical difficulty disabilities. One of my biggest contracts was actually a village for the Jewish, what you could call, let's call them mentally handicapped, although that's not a term used now, but it was a actual, you
Oh,
know, village set up for the Jewish community.
oh,
And some of them were it was actual a residential place, it wasn't a day care. And I taught there for, well, I'll say taught, it was doing dance therapy, therapizing for a few years. And, you know, various other, in psychiatric hospitals and things. You know, I was like, well, freelance, peripatetic. So you had a session here, a session there. There
mm.
was a Jewish hospital I substituted for someone for a while there in London. You know, older. I really enjoyed working with the elderly very much.
Oh, I
You
see.
know, but
What? Why particularly the elderly?
they're just great fun. It was very heartwarming. You know, that a lot of them were in homes or they were in day centres, and they had, say, reduced mobility. I mean, whether you could call it therapy or not is another matter. We won't get into that
Mm,
discussion.
okay.
But you do exercises with them, and I had all sorts of music that
Mm,
got them going, that would help them with brushing their hair, like you do, you know, movements like that to music,
mm,
you know,
I
and all
see.
sorts of things to keep them mobile, because some of them were obviously in wheelchairs, others weren't,
Yes.
you know, and it was just great fun doing that. So I
Oh,
I did
it's
that for a number of
gratifying.
years.
I
Yeah, yeah,
assume
it
very
was, but
gratifying.
not didn't earn a lot of money. And in the end, I had to stop doing it
Mm,
because it's like all of my colleagues, I'm still in touch with some of them, had great difficulty. We were all pioneers because it wasn't
yeah.
a recognized profession. So you weren't on any pay grade. It was things that you did, you called yourself something else so that you could get paid or whatever it was. Um, and it's sort of the same in the States, although it's a bit more developed there. And I ended up coming to New York to study. Went to Massachusetts in 1981, and then into New York in 1982.
Oh, to study
Right,
dance
dance
therapy?
therapy, yeah,
Oh, very
and
good.
that went
Very,
spectacularly wrong.
oh, really? Well, give us an example of what went wrong
My
about it.
God, you want to hear? Unfortunately, my dad died before I was shortly before I was due to go away, and if he'd have been alive, he might have strongly advised me not to go. But basically, I went on a wing and a prayer. I didn't have the funding for it. I was too late to get a Fulbright scholarship. You know, if you're doing things at home, I was very used to working on a wing and a prayer, and you can make your
Mm,
way when you're at home. But if you go to a place like New York, and it was very racy at that time,
mm.
you can't do the things that you do at home. I couldn't legally work. In order to, so basically, I went with virtually no funding. I had
Oh,
some friends lent me a little bit of money, which I later paid back. I had to get I had all sorts of money put into my account to make it seem like I had money to get a student visa. In fact, the money wasn't there. I paid it back afterwards so I could get the visa. It was a catalogue of disaster.
Uh,
If I knew that a child of mine had done that, I would have had kittens, and it ended up with me seriously ill.
well, personal
Yeah, you know,
disaster, or it sounds like in some ways,
it
right?
was. And I never
Uh,
thought I'd ever get back to New York again. I mean, I have been since I saw you
yes.
last year, but it's always a great pleasure for me when I can come back and just have fun in New
Uh,
York because it's
hopefully
terribly
counteract
dark.
the that very negative experience
Yes.
that you had. What would you most like to do career-wise? Your magic wand kind of thing, your dream gig or performance experience or anything like that.
You really want to hear this? You'll really think I'm a sugar when I tell you this. I have some very big dreams. I think very
Sure.
big.
Yeah, that's always interests
Right?
me. I always ask people, or invariably ask people when I interview them now in this, because I really always very interested. What are people's biggest dream?
Right. Listen to this. Wait for it. Don't laugh. Don't laugh. Carol at the Carnegie. I'm
Carnegie
aiming
Hall.
Carnegie Hall is one, and taking Broadway by storm is another. I don't actually
Sure,
as a
why not?
comedian. I don't actually mean necessarily as a comedian. It's actually singing.
Oh,
I
as a
don't mean
singer.
singing. I don't mean singing on the level that Michelle does. I'm talking about popular, you know, ballads and so on. But
Mm.
that is the dream. And
Ah,
on the basis of that, I do have a dream of, and I have this constantly, of having a film made of
mm,
my life story because it as an inspiration for other people. But it's
mm,
predicated on the fact that I get to Carnegie Hall.
I
It would
see.
have I would have to well, in that guy, I would have to become really well known
Uh,
in order to
yes,
make the film. And I'm talking about a major feature film that
right.
people will see on billboards.
Well, it's nice to have
And,
dreams. I can empathize with that uh, dream in the sense of making a feature film, several of which I've been trying to do for many years.
yes,
But that's my own story. But I can relate to the dream. It's nice to. I hope you can at least come to some version of that dream. Maybe that
yes.
would be nice. Well, for those in the audience who don't know, Carol's a member of my Trillo and Suede Facebook group. Trillo and Suede are my main characters because I am a ventriloquist, as I guess most of you out there know, but maybe some of you don't. You're just coming across this. That's my main career, and my main characters are Trillo and Suede, a detective duo, a ventriloquist and his wooden partner. I've done several short films and countless hundreds of videos, little short videos that I put on YouTube and TikTok and things like that, working on other projects. Anyway, I have a Facebook group for friends and fans of Trillo and Suede, and my other puppet characters too. Carole has become one of, if not the biggest fan, very, very active, which I appreciate, very active in the group. And you've taken on the persona, the identity of one of my puppet characters, who is Mrs. Levinsky, Mrs. Sarah Levinsky, also known as Aunt Sarah in my performances, in the movies that I've done and web series, which you also check out, by the way, and enjoy right here on YouTube. Uh, she has taken on that persona. The puppet is called Aunt Sarah. Anyway, in Yiddish, that's Mama Surala. That's the Yiddish way of saying Aunt Sarah. And Carole here has kind of taken on that identity, often making comments in the guise of as if she is, in fact, Mama Surala. So what inspired you about that character to take on that identity?
Well, I thought it was very funny that she was this old Yiddish speaking, a Yiddish, we might say, that owned the nightclub, which sold only salsa, where all these things went on with Big Boy Chick and so on and Goose. It
Uh,
was just very funny. And also because she's an older woman, rather than trying to aspire to be one of your younger femme fatales.
yes.
Then the
Well,
notion of Mama Sora actually being a femme fatale is even funnier.
yes, or fancying herself to be a femme fatale, right? Yes, that's I have some bits about that, references in the web series and stuff like that, but you pick up on it to keep that theme going in the Facebook group. It's a lot of very funny comments that you post there. Not everybody gets it, I'm sure, all the references, but it's funny nonetheless.
One of the other things that I did at the time that I was a dance therapist was also I was a massage therapist. So all these comments about Mama Sorla giving massages, that's actually
Ah,
based on truth. I didn't do flagellation, all right? That is a joke. You know, anything to do with being a dominatrix is just a joke. Yes, I
oh,
didn't
okay.
do that. I did straight massage. I've got lots of stories I could tell you about that and propositions that were made to me, but I was
Mm.
always very professional.
I see that. Well, the so all I'm really shocked because all those rumors about your flagellation activities are false, apparently, right? The false
Exactly, I'm
rumor.
afraid so. Yeah. Oh, Mama Sorla's flagellation is just a joke. Yeah.
For all of you out there watching this now, if you've been enjoying this interview, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that yet. Hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you'll be notified of all the future uploads in this ongoing series. And make sure to check out all of the other videos right here on the Trillo Suede YouTube channel, because we have our new movie, short film, Casanoir, parody of Casablanca, the famous 1942 movie, right here for you to enjoy for the time being. I'm not sure how long I'll keep it here for free, but it is free for now. So enjoy it, share with all your friends, share our channel with all your friends. Give us a like and comment. We like to read your comments and to respond to them right here. And Carole, before you leave, where can people follow you and keep track of you?
I've got a website, but it's under construction, and I've still got to get a YouTube channel. So basically, I'm on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, so that you can find
We
me
can follow you
there. I
there.
mean,
We'll post your
yeah,
links to those right under this video here, so you people out there can check it and go visit Carole, keep track of her activities. So, Carole, thanks again for joining us here today, and for all of you out there, thanks for joining us. Keep track of our upcoming podcast. We've got a slew of interesting, fascinating guests lined up as well. And subscribe now if you didn't yet subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell, and we'll see you soon. Till next
great.
time.